All right, so hi, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Maureen Lamb. I am the Latin teacher and Dean of Academic Technology and Innovative Pedagogy at the Ethel Walker School in Simsbury, Connecticut. I also teach graduate courses on language pedagogy and instructional technology through idioma education. I love teaching, learning, sharing learning at conferences, and creating an inclusive classroom experience. And I use Quizlet daily to help engage my students and stay organized. My students beg for Quizlet and I love it. I've been using it for many, many years now, and I just think it's fantastic. And here's just a little bit about what we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about organizing sets. We're going to talk about enhancing sets. We're going to talk about using diagrams, and we're going to talk about sharing sets. If you want to learn more about Quizlet Live and Checkpoint, come to my session later today. I will give you that information at the end here, where I'll take you through kind of what's a day in the classroom with Maureen look like when I'm using these things. Okay, so the first thing I want to say, and I want to say it loud for the people in the back, Quizlet is so much more than online flashcards. There is so much you can do with Quizlet that you can't do with traditional flashcards or even a lot of the other ed tech tools out there. And the diagrams, the language choices, the multiple choice. Now you have printing options. That was something big people are asking about last year. The idea that students can self-test and track their progress over time is something that's also extremely helpful. So that's something I find helpful for my students, and something that I think my students find very helpful as well, is that they can track their progress over time. There are also these really fun options like scanning from phone, adding rich text, and we're going to talk a bit about created classes as well. So I just wanted to give a brief overview here before we got into it. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is searching for sets. So when you first go into Quizlet, and I'm just going to pop into Quizlet right now. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to pop into my Quizlet. Oh, give me 1 second. Of course, my computer's being wonky. Isn't that always the way of it? All right, so here's my Quizlet. Here we are. And so even when you go to the search bar, you may not know about this, it will start recommending sets for you. And this can be based on what you've looked up in the past. That can be based on what you're searching for, what people are sharing with you. All of those can be part of what you're searching for. But you can also go to, so let's say you're searching for things. Let's say you're going into here, you can go right from there to a set. You can also go into, oh, sorry, something's not working. So you can search for sets in lots of different ways. So that's one of the ways, is from the toolbar there, but also, let me just pop this out. Don't mind my Lord of the Rings background. So you can search for sets that way, or you can go into all results. And so you can look up study sets. And so, for example, let's say I'm looking up the Odyssey. I'm going to find all the results. I'm going to look up, here's something I made. Oh, wait, 3 things I made. So you can search by study sets. You can search by textbooks. You can search by questions, users, classes, and courses. This can be really helpful, especially if you're doing class with someone else. This year, I co-taught for the first time. So much fun. And we could share Quizlet sets with each other. It was great. So I could just look her up and find her Quizlet sets. It's so much fun. Also, creating classes. Has anyone here created some classes in there? Oh my goodness. It is such a game changer. I find that if I create classes and add the sets to it, it's so helpful. Oh, can everyone see my screen? Someone just wrote that my screen is blank. Is my screen blank right now? Oh, okay, thank you. And so it's really nice to create a class, because then you can direct them to the types of sets that you've created already, and you can give them an opportunity to share their own sets. And so it's super easy. You create a class, you put in your class name, You enter a description if you want to. And I like to check out allow class members to add and remove sets because I want students to be able to share sets that they've created as well. And also class members to invite new members. So let's say you don't have an email for a student, maybe they're connected to another student. So that can be really helpful as well. And again, you can select the school you're from, and usually your school will be in there, which is exciting. And this is especially nice for me because, someone asked about creating a new class. I create a new class every year. There does not appear to be a way to copy it. However, it's super easy to add your sets from the previous year. So it's really quick. It's almost as quick as creating a new class in your LMS because all you do is upload the material that you already have. And you invite members either by using the Quizlet usernames, which I know not everyone will have access to, or oftentimes I'm going to add their emails from school and they can get in with their school emails. You can also share an automatic join link to have students enter the classroom. Or what I like to do is invite by linking Google Classroom. That really works well for me. And a pro tip is add students to a class so that they can use Learn and Test free with a Teacher Quizlet Plus membership. So that's a really big bonus. So if you add students to your classes, they can access your sets and use Learn and Test for free. Another fun thing is that if you're using sets, you're a Quizlet Plus maker and you're making these sets with multiple choice questions, they can access those as well. So that's a really big perk here. And I love using Learn and Test because it really helps students to learn at their own pace. So we'll talk about that a bit more. So adding sets, we were talking about this a little bit. It's really easy. You click the plus button and then you create a new set, or you add your sets, or you can add other sets too. So if you wanted to, you could make a folder of other sets. Again, don't reinvent the wheel. You're teaching the Odyssey, go out and see what people have put out there for the Odyssey. If you're teaching a concept in science, go see what's out there. Copy it, modify it, but don't feel like you need to reinvent the wheel. I do this all the time for my sets. I also have almost the entire AP Latin curriculum in mine. So there's a lot out there. And again, if someone else has already done that, then it's so good to just use what they have and modify it the way you need it. Custom distractors. Again, this is a Quizlet Plus feature, but it's something I use all the time. I know that now the multiple choice, if you're doing multiple choice that's not with the custom distractors, it's still multiple choice that's generated by machine learning. So they will try to pick answers that make sense for the question you're asking. But it's also fun to do custom distractors. And I will even take old multiple choice quizzes that I've made for AP Latin or for my Latin Lit class, and I'll put them in here. Just a multiple choice question, and then students will be able to answer it. So it's almost like repurposing the worksheet and then making it a Quizlet, which is really cool. And with diagrams, you can even add the worksheet itself. So it's pretty neat. I'm sorry, someone asked what a custom distractor is. A custom distractor is the same thing as a multiple choice option. So basically you're choosing what those multiple choice options are when students are doing learn, test, and checkpoint. That's such a great question. So learn and test. So here are some class sets that have been added to this class. And so students can use these sets because they've been added to the class for free, and they can go through it. So let's look at what learn and test looks like. So first of all, I really love this. This is a newer feature. So choosing a goal to personalize learning. So you can quick study, you can memorize it all, or learn and apply, which is coming soon. And I really like quick study and memorize it all because I feel like those are the two options my students are often going for. Or you can skip personalization and just kind of get right into the learning, but it's really nice to be asked that question. Also, I really like that for learn and test, you can choose the different options. So let's say a student wants to answer in the exact answer or one answer. Maybe they want to answer in English, maybe they want to answer in Latin. Do they want the terms shuffled into random order, or do they want them the way they are in the set itself? So they have a lot of options. I'm going to show a couple more too. Oh, here, I wanted to do starred or all. So when you go through a set, you can click on the star, and let's say a student saying, okay, I know most of these terms, but maybe I don't know 10 of them. Then they can star those and just study those 10 things that they don't know. So that's really important. And another wonderful feature of using class is you can see student progress. And so you can see things that are missed, you can see things that are sometimes missed, and you can see things that are never missed, which is really cool. And that can help you gauge, okay, they really know this well, and maybe they don't know this as well, so you can go over that. I like that Quizlet has a lot of options for this. They have this in Learn and Test. And if you come to my session later, I'm going to talk about how I use this with Checkpoint as well. And another cool thing is just watching student progress over time. And you can track which students started or completed their study sessions, and those that maybe haven't started yet. And you can say, oh, I noticed you didn't try any of your Quizlet sets yet. Maybe you want to give it a shot. So that's really important. Also learning how students learn. What are they choosing? Are all the students choosing Learn? Are they choosing flashcards? Are they using Match? Are they using Test? What seems to be what they're using to review? And also using that as feedback for you so that you can teach to what students need to know. So that's all very important. So I love getting this feedback. Again, this is a Quizlet Plus feature, but it's so very helpful. I see I'm getting a lot of questions. I will hold off on some questions until I go through this, but I appreciate it. And if you have questions, answer them, ask them in the Q&A. If I don't get to your question in the session, I absolutely mean this. If you have a question, please email me afterwards. I have my email link. I'm latintechtools@gmail.com. And I will be happy to help you. I got over 100 emails after last year's session, and I got to all of them. So feel free to email me. I'm happy to help. Here are some of the benefits of Quizlet Plus for teachers. You can see class progress, as we just looked at. You can also adapt Quizlet Live. I'll be talking about that again later when I do live and Checkpoint. You can do advanced creation toolkit with diagrams. I love diagrams and rich text. It's so helpful. You can now scan text using your phone to create sets, which is so cool. And also you can go into focus mode with ad-free studying and offline set access. I do that sometimes on my phone. It's really helpful. So now we're going to talk about beyond the basics. We're going to talk about rich text, sound, pictures, and diagrams. So I love using the rich text features because I can highlight something. I know as a language teacher, I do a lot of vocabulary and context. And so for me, it's really important. I'll give a sentence in Latin and I will highlight or underline or bold or all of the above a word that I want students to identify, whether that's identifying what the vocabulary word means, identifying the grammar, etc. And so the rich text really helps me with this. I also really like that it's language adaptive so that you can add accent marks and letters from languages other than English. And this was especially important to me when I was teaching ancient Greek. It was so very helpful so that I could type in Greek with Quizlet. And so that was something I ended up using all the time. So I really appreciate it. Also pictures. You can either add and search for images, or you can upload your own images, which is super fun. I like uploading them. And now you can upload them from your phone, which is super cool with Quizlet Plus. So using the app, you can, or phone, iPad, whatever tablet you're using, if you have the Quizlet app, you can take a picture with the app, which is really neat. And so I think that just adds something a little extra to have a picture there to associate it. Because we know it's so important when students are learning to have pictures, to have, it's for some students color coding, for some students sound, all of those things help enhance the learning process. And again, photos from the app is something you can do. And you can scan text as well, which is going to be really, really helpful. Also, you can do audio. So you can do your own recorded audio if you have Quizlet Plus by holding down the space bar. It is so easy. Hold down the space bar, talk, let go of the space bar, you're done. You can also do Quizlet audio. which is pre-recorded. This is not a plus feature. And so you can listen to the Quizlet audio. And it has gotten so much better in the last few years. I used it last year with Greek and it was awesome. So I was really excited about that, so that I didn't have to record all the Greek. It was so cool. And it gave students just that extra little bit of knowledge of while they're doing something, they're listening to it, they're reading it at the same time. It just really helps with retention. I also want to talk about accessibility tools, which is one of my favorite parts of Quizlet and one of the reasons I am so excited about Quizlet. I always, as you see from my screenshots, I keep it in night mode because I really like the dark background. It helps me to see better. I know not everyone may feel the same way, but it really helps me. I also really love the keyboard shortcuts. So this is a keyboard shortcut for creating sets, which I think are super helpful. And I have some students that really appreciate the keyboard shortcuts. They just find them so very helpful. So again, these are for adding cards. This is for when students are reviewing cards. Again, super easy to figure out. I really appreciate it. And then finally, this is when students are doing the flashcard mode. They can flip back and forth, again, using these keyboard shortcuts, which is really, really helpful. Also, I love the different language options. I think it's cool that it often recognizes the language. Probably for me better than Google Translate, because whenever I write in Latin, it thinks it's French, but Quizlet always knows it's Latin. And so that's really helpful. And just being able to use it is so cool. And the way that all the different accent marks and the characters pop up is really, really neat. And you can choose it if it doesn't come up automatically. All right. That is so much information and we're going to keep going through, but I appreciate all the questions. Again, if I don't get to your question, feel free to email me after this session. So we're going to talk about diagrams, which is, again, probably one of my favorite Quizlet features. I've been using diagrams for a couple of years now, and oh my goodness, what a game changer in the classroom it has been for me. We're going to talk about pictures, blurred text, shapes and points, and maps and images. So the first thing I want to talk about is how I use this. So for blurring, what I like to do is create predictive text. So let's say students are reading a story in Latin. I will blur out the next sentence and the students have to supply what the next thing might be or what could the next sentence be. I've done this in a bunch of my classes, but especially my lower levels, and they love it. I also do this for worksheets. So I'll take a screenshot of a worksheet. I will upload it as a picture onto Quizlet, and then students will be able to put their answers to the blurred out part, which is where the answers are, which is really cool. And then I have that to share with students so they can do a quick painless homework check. I also like to use shapes and points on diagrams. One of the ways I do this a lot is with maps. So for example, this is our lovely map of the travels of Hannibal. And so these are all the different locations that Hannibal went to as he traveled around the Mediterranean. And students would have to know that. And so again, I can highlight either a text or parts of a picture and make it a point, or I can add a shape there. So here I've added circles, you can add rectangles, you can add squares, just depending on what you want to do. I also like to do it with diagrams. So here I have a diagram in English. And what I would do is put these points on here and have students answer in the target language, not the target Latin, which is Latin. And so students would be taking this map, which is in English, and then answering in Latin. And so giving them some opportunities to show what they know in the target language, which is really fun. We're going to talk about some more just easy pro tips for using sets. Again, you can use advanced search to search by set, user, class, textbook, questions, etc. Super important, super helpful, but really all searches are really important because you don't want to reinvent the wheel. If you can search for it, if you can find it, then modify it. Copy it and modify it. That's what it's all about. And I think it's great when people copy my sets. I think it's wonderful. I think we should all be sharing it. I think the more that we can save time and the more that we can help each other out, the better. Also, you can combine sets. So what I like to do is I'll show you where this is on Quizlet. Let me stop sharing for 1 second, and then let me know if you can see my next screen. If you can't, please let me know. Can you all see my screen? Thank you. Okay, so let's say for a second that this is mine and I want to combine sets. So I'm going to go to these three dots there. I'm going to press combine, and now I'm going to look. I can combine it under spelling, test, play, match. I can print, which is fun, or create a set. I can either do my own sets, or I can search for sets that I want to combine. So I can search for other sets. And then combining those sets. So let's say I wanted to see if there's another Hobbit out there. Hello, where's a Hobbit? Oh, I'll add that. Cool. I'm gonna make cards. Neato. And now I have this combined set go. Now both these sets are together, and I'm gonna do flashcards with both sets, which is really fun. And so let's say you have two sets that you want to work on, or you have sets that you want your students to work on. You can combine those and then add the combined set. Okay, hold on one second. I am going to share my screen again. Sorry about that. Can you see my screen now? Awesome. Thank you. All right, you can also export sets. So I like to export them if I'm using them for students just to review as a doc, or I could export them to other things. So sometimes I'll export them to something like Bluekit or Gimkit or something like that, so that students can use those to review as well. So it's really important and wonderful to be able to do this. You can also import sets, which is really cool. Again, if you have them in this format, and you change it to whatever format you have it in, you can import and export sets really easily from Quizlet. So when I make things, everything lives in Quizlet. I have hundreds and hundreds of sets of Quizlets, and I use a set pretty much daily to go through with students. So that's really, really helpful as a place to curate my sets. Also printing. This is a feature that was a feature that just came back, and it's really helpful. I find that for some students, printing the flashcards can be really helpful for them if they need something more kinesthetic. If they need to flip through flashcards, that's totally fine. I also find that it can be helpful if you're doing it as kind of a review thing. So you can now print either sets of cards themselves, or you can actually print a test from Quizlet, which is so helpful. So you can create a test, you can add the different questions, and then print it out. So that's something that can be really, really helpful. Before we end, I'm going to have time for questions. Yes, make sure you take a look at the teacher's guide to Quizlet. Here's a website here. It's quizlet.com/teachers. So feel free to check this out and see if this helps. And finally, feel free to come to my next session. I'm super excited about this. This is, again, energize and engage the classroom using Live Classic and Checkpoint. So I'm going to take you through kind of a day, see what that looks like, and make sure that you know what I do and what the steps are to what I do and how that helps my students to learn. Okay, so wonderful. I have time for questions, which is so exciting. Again, if you need to access this presentation for any reason or want to follow along or look back as you ask questions, it's tinyurl.com/Quizlet201-2022. Okay, so I'm going to jump in to the questions and answers. Again, if for some reason I don't get to your question, feel free, latintechtools@gmail.com, I will respond. So it's not a bot or anything, it's actually just my email. And if you have a question, please make sure that you're putting it in your Q&A. Oh, Rashida Young, you asked a good question. How do you connect teachers to each other's classes so that both teachers can check student progress? I don't know the answer to that, but if you just send that to me, I will look that up, okay? Ooh, okay. So Nicole has asked, at the start of each year, I take the sets out and add them as we go. Is there a way to just hide them until I'm ready for them to go live? Not that I'm aware of. I do the same thing, Nicole, but I just add them as I go. So I also have folders So what might help you, Nicole, is to create folders for different units and then add those folders as you go. That might be a good way to keep it organized and keep it in the same space, and then just quickly add it. Great question. Deidre asks, how do I accurately monitor how much each of my students are studying? It's not easy to monitor how much each student is studying, but I would say that you can see what they've done. So you can see, let's say that they did a match, they did a test, they did a learn. So you can see that they've at least engaged with it. So that's something, but it doesn't tell you exactly how many minutes or anything like that. That's a really good question. I find that it's really helpful to do Checkpoint and Quizlet Live to really get a good sense of where student progress is. I think that's a fast formative assessment where you can really get that feedback quickly. James asked, does adding students to a class while using Quizlet Plus eliminate ads for students? It eliminates ads for students in the sets that are in their classroom. That's a great question. And another James asks, is there a way to upload a library of questions from a textbook publisher? That's a really good question. I think it depends on the format, and if it's a format where you can import it. We may need to follow up with that one, James. An anonymous person said, will we get a certificate? I think at the end of the second day. Robert asks, is there a way to create flashcards from a laptop computer rather than from our mobile phones? Absolutely, you can create flashcards from a laptop computer. It's just yet another way to do it. That's a really good question. Ellen says, I assigned Quizlet for students to study before a quiz. Give them credit if they complete 4 of the options. How does the student know when they've finished a Quizlet task, such as learn, test, etc.? They set it up with the number of questions they're going to be using. So for example, if I'm having students do learn or test, I might do it with 20 questions or with anything like that. That's a really good question. I don't know about the copy class feature. Good question. Yes, Deidre asked, do students need to be in your Quizlet class to monitor their progress? Yes, that's true. Janet wrote, I didn't save any of my study sets in my class folder. Does anyone know how I can move them to the class folder? Well, Janet, if you have them in a folder, then you can move that folder to your class if that's helpful to you. So like I was saying earlier, I actually keep all the materials in folders, and then I move those folders as we get to that material to the different Quizlet classes. I hope that makes sense. Erin asked, kids need to have Plus in order to access teacher content on Plus. No, they do not, actually. If they are added to your class, they can do learn and test. And if teachers have added custom distractors or multiple choice questions, they can access those as well. Someone asked, Iris asked, will you guys post this session online later so I can watch it later? I believe it's August 7th, right, Meredith? It'll be posted online later. That's a really good question. Some people are asking questions in the chat. Please use the Q&As because that's what we're looking. All right. And again, if you would rather send me an email, I'm totally happy to follow up with you as well. Okay, someone asked about data tracking for teachers. Again, you can just see if students completed an activity. However, you can also see progress as to how many students got right and wrong. So you can actually have some feedback about how students are doing with engaging with the material. I also said, as I said earlier, Checkpoint's a great way to do this. Marixa asked if you're able to print out the vocab words. Yes, you should be able to. Lisa says, you can add photos if you're not on the pay part. You can add photos from online, but you can't add your own photos. That's a good question. Robert asked, where do we find these shortcuts on the platform? In different locations, you'll see a little keyboard icon. If you click on the keyboard icon, then you should be able to see them. Tamara asked, is there a way to translate cards from English into another language for my ELL students? You can have, you can do cards that are English to another language. Absolutely. It doesn't necessarily translate it that way, but you can do cards that are English to target language or target language to English or anything like that. And also there is audio for English. Oh, interesting. I don't know, Argelia, you've asked, is there an easy way to switch the image to the other side of the flashcard? I don't know about that, but you can definitely switch back and forth if you want to, term and definition, if you want to while students are playing a game. You can even do it in the middle of Quizlet Live. You can switch term and definition. Okay, so let's see. Someone has asked, if I already have a Quizlet Plus account, how do I change that to a teacher account? I believe they're the same thing. Am I correct, Meredith? Okay.
Well, Maureen, I'm hopping off mute. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Is a Quizlet Plus the same as a former teacher account?
Yeah, Quizlet Plus. Yes. So Quizlet Plus
Okay.
for teachers is the same thing as a Quizlet Plus.
Thank you so much. That's what I thought. Yeah. I just wanted to confirm. I didn't want to give out false information.
Great question. Sorry, I'm trying to answer all the questions that are coming in at the same time. Really appreciate them. Keep them coming in the Q&A.
This is great, everybody. Interesting. Can student, as Davis asks, what can students zoom into graphics? I have them do the pluses and minuses. And so timelines, Davis, if you want, I can, if you want to email me, I can share a timeline that I do for students with the Life of Caesar. And again, I also share the timeline with them kind of in another venue, and then have, so I'll either give it to them or I'll create a digital timeline and then have them do the Quizlet as well so they can look back and forth. So either one works. Oh, interesting. Raina asks, what's the difference between sharing and embedding? If I'm embedding sets to Canvas, can students use all the features for practicing the vocabulary? So if you're embedding that to Canvas, you still should be creating a class within Quizlet if you have a Quizlet Plus account, so that students, again, can access, learn, and test for free. So I would still create a Quizlet class. That's a good question. Let's see. Allie, I see that you are having trouble seeing student progress. I would reach out to customer service about that one. I'm not sure why you would not be able to see progress. Yeah, Rosalita, you do not have to have student emails to invite them. You can also add them by username, or you can give them a link to join, or they can join using Google Classroom. Ruth asks, does Quizlet have any other games other than matching? Oh my goodness, Ruth, come to my session later on. We're going to be talking about Quizlet Live and Quizlet Checkpoint. Super fun and great whole class games. All right. Let's see. I'm checking out. Harbor asks how to split a long set of flashcards from 50 to 25. So you can do it in two ways. You can copy the flashcards and then delete the ones you don't want. Or when you're studying, what you can do is you can star those 25 that you want to study. That's a way to do it too. Let's see. Ooh, Tina asks, what's the difference between Classic Live and Checkpoint? Oh, Tina, you should come to my session later this afternoon. So Classic Live is the Quizlet Live we all know and love, where students are competing to answer questions as fast as they can. Checkpoint, they have the same amount of time and they answer within that time frame. And it's basically a formative check, and students all are individual. So you don't do groups for Checkpoint. That's a really good point. Let's see. Meredith, did you put the teacher guide? Could you put the teacher guide link, please, into the chat? I think some people are having trouble opening it, if that's okay. Oh, Sandra Lee says, is there a way to merge classes? I have a French one and also a French one. So you could add all of the students to the same class. That's a way to do it. Or you can create separate classes, depending on how you want to do it. It's a really good question. So Jenny, if you want to see she's asked, what are the benefits of Quizlet Plus? If you go to one of my previous slides, you can see all the different things you get as part of Quizlet Plus. Katya asks, does Quizlet have a way to show charts with the progress of the class? Because my administrators want to see evidence of learning as a whole class. Well, if you have a Quizlet Plus account, you can see student progress on different sets. So you could probably take a screenshot of the different diagrams you get there and show how their learning changes over time. And let's see. So Nydia says, so if students join with a joint code, they will not have access to learn and test. They will have access to learn and test if they are part of a class. So they can join with a joint code, but just they have to be a part of the class. And you have to have a Quizlet Plus account for them to have that access for free to learn and test. That's a really good question. So Brian, you were asking about switching term and definition in the middle of a game. Please come to my session later and I will talk more about that. Oh, Victoria asks, is there a way to use and share other created Quizlets with those in the same content area? Absolutely. I share Quizlets all the time. Like I said, I have it for most of the AP Latin exam. And so I share them with people. I go through them. I can share them by link. I can share them by adding it on Google Classroom for my students. Either way. Michelle has asked, if my students join via link, does it give them my distractors? Yes, it does. If they're using the sets that you have created and they're doing learn and test. That's a really good question. Someone asked, Deborah asked, is checkpoint still limited to 10 questions? Actually, it's 12 questions. So yes. Let's see. Nancy asked, I thought the star was for those you have learned, or is it for the ones you want to continue studying? I usually use it with my students for the ones they want to continue studying, but you can do either. You can do all or starred. So when you're studying, so you can choose one or the other. Does that make sense? Okay. We are coming to the end here, so I think I'm going to take just one more question. Yes, the session's recorded. It will be available August 7th. And Sandra Lee asked, would you recommend making folders for each topic and adding sets to those folders? Yes, that would definitely be my recommendation. I have sets for all the different things I do, and it's how I stay organized. Then when I'm doing it with my students and I'm adding it to classes, then I find adding the folder just makes it easier for everybody. It helps me stay organized, which is really important. I know I did not get to everyone's questions, and I'm so sorry for that. But if you want to reach out on Twitter, I'm at Latin Tech Tools. On Instagram, I'm Latin Tech Tools. And my email is latintech.tools@gmail.com. Please, please, please feel free to reach out. And hopefully I'll see some of you later today at my session on Checkpoint and Live. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.